All right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about Unholy Death Knight in the Midnight Beta. And this spec is so cool. Even if you're not an Unholy player and you're coming to this for the first time, guys, it is so cool. It is so fun to play. I had a long list of things that I thought that they should add or fix before, the full release. And they came out with patch notes pretty much doing all of the things that I was about to make a video on. So I have 90%, 99% only positive things to say about this spec. It's so fun. That being said, I'm going to spend some time talking about all of the cool changes. I'm going to spend some time talking about, the 1% of things that I think that they could maybe iterate on before the full release. And just a disclaimer, this is not a guide, okay? These are not the best talents. We have a lot of tuning to go before we know what's meta, what's not. So if you see any videos or anything of people being like, this is the best Unholy build, or Unholy sucks to play, its damage is bad, or Unholy is... Don't listen to it, okay? It is all about how it feels right now. It's all about how it plays, and the tuning and all of that stuff will come. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, we're going to kick things off with talents. And I know I made another video where I went over each individual talent and how awesome it is, but I'm going to just do kind of a TLDR for people that maybe haven't seen any of the changes yet or haven't played Unholy but are thinking of checking it out, and you're kind of like, what's new? Is it cool? Do I want to play it or not? So that's kind of going to be the goal going over these talents. I'm going to cover the things that I think are really neat and some of the changes between Unholy in live versus Unholy in beta. So, by the way, this is not a guide. I promise I will make a guide for Mythic Plus Raid PvP. Once everything is settled down, we've gotten tuning and we're done with all the changes. But right now, we don't quite know what the tuning is going to end up like or any of that. So we're just sort of looking at interactions and how these things play. Is it fun to press the buttons? So the first major change that we have is Outbreak is going to now apply a new disease called Dread Plague to one of your targets. Now, Dread Plague is going to do damage, but it's also going to be the thing that gives you your Sudden Doom, your Death Coil procs. So this is nice because it means that you don't really have to be in melee to get your Sudden Doom procs. Before, in live, you need to be in melee auto-attacking to get the Sudden Doom procs. So you're not as punished for losing uptime, which is pretty cool. Now, they didn't just, dip a toe into the Necromancer Unholy from range type of deal. They decided to stick their whole fucking leg in because the next change is so cool. Festering Wounds are gone. They're gone, guys. They removed Festering Wounds. So they have not just removed it, but they have gone in and replaced it with something cool, a new cool functionality. So they weren't just like, we're ripping stuff away and we're not going to give them anything new to play with. They ripped it away and they gave us something better. So Festering Wounds used to be a debuff that you'd put on one single target at a time, unless you're an AoE and you're running a bunch of those talents. But it made target swapping really rough, and it wasn't very thematic. You had one target with a purple debuff on them, and if you needed to swap to another target, you needed to put the next purple debuff on them, and it had nothing. Unholy was about pets and diseases, and it didn't really have anything to do with anything. They've changed that. Like I said, they dipped their whole leg into Necromancer, and now, when you press Festering Strike, your next few Scourge Strikes are going to summon lesser ghouls. So you're going to be summoning a ton of these guys. It's very cool. And the other really cool thing about this is that Scourge Strike is going to spread your plague to your other targets. So you no longer need to be standing in Death and Decay. It's still in your spellbook. you still have it. I think right now with current tuning, and again, this stuff is subject to change, but like in like a 15 or above or something like that target scenario, maybe you could still use Death and Decay, but you don't need it anymore. So very, very cool, very thematic. But wait, there's more. The next step is that they added a new button called Putrefy, which is so cool. Putrefy summons a lesser ghoul and throws them at the enemy where they blow up for AoE shadow damage. So this is awesome. I mean, the gameplay loop here is that you are going to be summoning a bunch of these lesser ghouls and then throwing them at your enemies for AoE shadow damage for them to blow up. It's so awesome. I love this gameplay loop. And we even get Clawing Shadows in the first 3 rows. Clawing Shadows is now going to be chaining your targets together, which again gets rid of the Death and Decay cleave. Guys, first 3 rows of Unholy, they fixed a lot of the complaints that it had before. They tied the diseases together, they added a new pet gameplay, and they gave us a cool new unique ability. Now, as far as the rest of the talent tree goes, there's a lot to cover here, and like I said, I'm going to try and do the TLDR because I know you guys don't want a hour-long video quite yet. So as you can see, Army is up here higher in the tree. It's very, very accessible. It is not kind of at the bottom anymore. They also have a choice node with Raise Abomination and Summon Gargoyle. Raise Abomination has a disease cloud around it that makes people take 20% increased damage from your minions. This does scale with Putrefy, which is pretty cool. So you can be doing some nice AoE there. Summon Gargoyle, they also changed in the patch notes yesterday to always critically strike. So again, very, very cool. These are on a choice node. I think we're going to do, we're going to cover things that I think could be improved on. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in that section. Now, we also have very, very convenient talents that I really like Rapid Variant. This makes it so that your Dread Plague, which is your new plague, whenever the target that has it dies, it is going to move over to another target. What this means is that you're not going to have to be spamming Outbreak and Mythic Plus. I really like talents like this that are sort of smoothing out your gameplay. I think this is really neat. It just having smoother gameplay, especially in Mythic Plus where you have a bunch of targets and they're all dying very quickly, this is going to feel really, really nice. They've changed Festering Scythe. Festering Scythe is different now. What it does is it makes it so that there's a cone in front of you that it slashes them for shadow damage and increases the plagues on the target. The other thing is that it costs no runes. The big thing is that it costs no runes. And this is really, 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 really nice for your resource generation. Because a big thing with them changing all this stuff with Unholy was making sure that they still had good resource generation, that it's smooth to play. So that is a change. We have some of the disease talents over here, so I'm going to talk quickly about some of the disease row. Blight Burst, what this does is makes it so that whenever you use Putrefy and it blows up for AoE shadow damage, the explosion is going to apply your plagues to unaffected targets, and it's also going to deal some of the disease damage instantly. We also have Scourging, which makes it so that Scourge Strike now instead causes your plagues to erupt for damage they would have inflicted at 35% effectiveness, so some more instant damage from your diseases. And then Pestilence. Pestilence makes it so that your Scourge Strike has a chance to upgrade your plague and make it so that you consume all of the plagues, but then deal 50% of the remaining damage instantly and gain a charge of Putrefy. So this is interesting because it makes some of your disease gameplay a bit burstier. So it's a bit different than, on live where your diseases are more of the sustained type of gameplay. So it's really cool. It's really cool to play with. And again, I have some things I will talk about in the in the section of like things I think they could still improve, but core gameplay is very nice. Soul Reaper has been changed. It is now it now does not have sort of that timer counting down anymore. It is now you press it and you get the bonus instantly. The bonus is now that you get a 20% damage increase from your pets on that target that you used it on. When coupled with Reaping, whenever you use Dark Transformation, you can use Soul Reaper immediately. This means that you can always get a massive 20% damage buff to your pets on the target that you're hitting whenever you're pressing your cooldown window. So, pretty big burst button there. I like that. I like that it does that, but it's not even the capstone, and the capstone is really, really sweet. The capstone is reanimation. Whenever you putrefy a lesser ghoul, it is going to reanimate as a Magus of the Dead, who will hurl frostbolts and shadow bolts at your foes. So, whenever you press putrefy and you blow up one of your ghouls, they turn into a Magus and start slamming. So I really like this. It feels really good. This was one that it was less than 100% chance before, and that felt really, really bad. It felt really RNG. They changed it to 100%, and it's great. It feels really good. It's really cool to use. I really, really like this. Now, on the pet side of the trees, we now have Necromancer's Cunning, which Putrefy now summons a lesser ghoul to attack instead. So this does two things. One, if you don't have any ghouls ready, like you don't have any summoned and you press Putrefy, it'll summon one and throw it at the target immediately. So you get some damage going right away. The other thing that it does is if you're essentially net neutral with your ghouls. So if you do have ghouls, you're still summoning one as you're blowing one up, and you're even, which is kind of nice because more pets. It's more pets, more cool. Commander of the Dead, you guys know what that is. Duration of your lesser ghouls are increased by 50% of your mastery. That is a new effect. And we also have Outnumber. Outnumber is fantastic, guys. This was one of the things that I was going to request kindly that they change or add, and they did it. It's very, very cool. So what Outnumber does is it makes it so that each one of your lesser ghouls will increase the damage of your permanent ghoul, and it also makes it so that during Dark Transformation, all of your little lesser ghouls are going to be hitting for AoE. I really, really like this because it means that you're not just relying on your Magus of the Dead to do AoE damage for your pets. Your pets are going to just be doing AoE damage during your cooldown windows. It means you're not going to be going, I guess I really like the pet build, but I play Mythic Plus, so I have to take the diseases. No, you can take the pet build and do just as well. So very, very exciting. And as far as the Apex talents, I'll show you what those look like. So let's go ahead and go over to a dummy, and I want to show you some of these visuals. I am a visual type of person, so I prefer to see the animations and how it looks and all that. So I'm going to show you right here. So first of all, when you press Army of the Dead, this is going to be one of the coolest, most satisfying buttons to press in the entire game. Okay, all these specs are getting a lot of cool stuff, and I am biased. I recognize that I love Death Knight, and I am biased. But that being said, I think you could show this to just about anyone, and they would be like, oh my god, that spec looks awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and press the cooldowns just so you can see what they look like, okay? So remember, when you press Army of the Dead, I know I'm like edging you guys right now. Okay, so when you press Army of the Dead with Raise Abomination, it is going to putrefy 2 of the ghouls immediately, which means it's going to turn them into Magus. And when you press Dark Transformation, it is going to summon a Magus as well as a lesser ghoul. So what you're gonna see is the army come, You're going to see Magus spawn. You're going to see the couple of the lesser ghouls getting thrown at the target and blowing up. Okay, he's using these, so let's use the other one so you guys get a clean visual. But it is so fucking sweet. Hang on. All right, here we go. Army of the Dead, Dark Transformation, then we'll press Putrefy. Here we go. Oh my god, right? How cool is that? And you're pressing Putrefy and summoning more. Guys, it is so sweet. I think it is so cool how many undead you can summon. Okay, so now that you've seen, that's what the cooldown window looks like, right? But as I press my Death Coil procs, you can see it summoning the lesser ghouls. And when I press Festering Scythe, or Festering Strike, sorry, I get these little charges. These little charges can be used to then summon lesser ghouls, who then run at the target. And whenever I putrefy them, right, they blow up for shadow damage, and it gives me a Magus. So, very, very cool. Whenever you're using your Sudden Doom procs, it is going to summon the ghouls as well. So you can see just as I'm slowly pressing buttons how many ghouls it summons, how many Magus you can get. It is so, so cool. I think it's one of those where I was hitting the dummy in the new Silver Moon, and I was just like, I can't stop attacking because it's just so, it's so fun. It's so fulfilling to like press the buttons. So I'm going to show you guys one more time what the army and Dark Transformation and all that looks like. I think it's just so cool with how many things you summon. So I'm going to press that again for you guys. Here, we'll even turn off the UI for a second. Right? I think it's so sweet. So yeah, that is what it looks like, and your gameplay loop again is going to be summoning those pets with your Scourge Strike, and then putrefying them. And as you can see, when I swap targets, I don't need to reapply Festering Strike. I can just go ahead and keep summoning ghouls. Very, very cool. Very, very, very nice. It's going to feel a lot better in Mythic Plus. It's going to feel a lot better burning down priority ads in Raid, because right now in live I am playing a lot of Frost, not just because of the tuning, but because whenever I have to use whenever there's priority ads, I feel like I just can't swap to them easily on Unholy. So love these changes. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think that they should change. So let me just go over here so it's nice and quiet for you guys. You're not hearing all those abilities going off. Okay, so a couple of the things that I think that need to still be changed. And again, I really want to express that this is me giving feedback, not because, oh, Unholy sucks and it needs all this stuff before it's ready. Unholy is so fun and so good to play. This is just me giving some feedback on things that I think would make it feel even better. Not overpowered, right? I don't want it to just be some overpowered, ridiculous thing. I'm just talking about sort of from a gameplay loop perspective, okay? So, some of the pathing, first of all. So here we have this area right here. I think the pathing is a little weird. And why I think this is a little weird is because we have Super Strain, which makes it so that when Dread Plague deals damage, it has a chance to give you Runic Power. Now, playing without Festering Strike, right, if I do this, feels terrible. It feels really bad. Not having Festering Strike does not feel good to play. You're starved for resources. I don't think it's very nice at all. It almost feels like this talent is mandatory. And I think that at the very least, if you do nothing else to this side of the tree, these should be swapped. right? I think these should be swapped. Festering Strike, for how necessary it is for a smoother rotation, should be higher. That's just my opinion. Now, some of the other things I'll talk about, and these are, and I know tuning is going to happen. I just kind of want to give my perspective and give a little nudge. Pestilence. Okay, Pestilence right now is great. This is a great effect. Does a lot of damage when it happens. The proc chance for this happening is very, very low. This does not happen very often, and it can feel like it's a bit of a waste of a talent because it's a bit hit or miss. There's still a bit of RNG. Blizzard, I'm saying that word, the RNG word, and you guys have fixed a lot in the tree with the RNG, and I really appreciate what you've done in making reanimation 100% chance and all that. Like, it feels a lot less gambly than it was when it first came out, but I think this is too low of a proc chance to feel fulfilling right now. Maybe we even tune the damage down, but up the proc chance, and I think it will feel more consistent. Okay, so those are two things. The other things, right now, they recently changed Summon Gargoyle because it was getting dusted by Raise Abomination. I mean, Raise Abomination was doing almost double the damage of Summon Gargoyle, and they updated Summon Gargoyle to where it always critically strikes. But I think that these need to be, I think Summon Gargoyle needs some love. I think it needs a little bit of changing so that it is like, this is the single target one, this is the AoE one, it's more obvious. I think the tuning should be looked at here. They're both really cool, but I think that they should be more competitive with each other for different situations, because right now they're not. Raise Abomination is just better. Okay. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was that, okay, I'm trying to think of how to say it. Sorry, I had all of these changes for them, and they came out with a bunch of patch notes that fixed like all of the things. So I only have a few changes left, but I want to make sure that I'm very intentional with how I word this. Some of the things, okay. Army of the Dead, right? Your lesser ghouls that get summoned. The duration of these lesser ghouls was reduced. And I understand it was reduced because some of the RNG was removed, right? So you were having more ghouls more often. So they reduced the duration. The problem with reducing the duration is right now with current tuning, the ghouls do very little, very little damage. Now, things like Putrefy do like incredible damage. They do a lot of damage. The ghouls right now are a little underwhelming in the damage department, and I know that it's tuning hasn't fully happened, right? I'm just giving feedback. I think that needs to be addressed, especially with the Sweeping Claws option being here. I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay. Now, the last thing that I will mention is that Unholy feels a little unfulfilling outside of the cooldowns. Okay, Army by itself, because the ghouls are so undertuned, is like only a couple percentage points of a damage increase. Like if it wasn't for Raise Abomination, right? If Raise Abomination didn't exist, Army by itself would be a pretty bad talent. And that's because the ghouls are bad. Not bad. The ghouls do not hit for as hard as you would think they hit. So I think lowering their duration was probably maybe a step in a negative direction. I think you could increase their damage, but I really like the duration portion because more of them is just cooler. Like having more up at the same, like up at once is just, it's just cooler. So there's one of two ways I think Blizzard could go with that. I think they could up the ghoul damage, or they could revert the duration and make them last longer. Now, the other thing is, outside of the cooldown windows, feels a little weak, especially in AoE. And I think that, again, upping the ghoul damage or how long they're alive for will fix that. So let me summarize, because there was a lot there. Number one, pathing over here. I think that Festering Strike Scythe should be swapped with Super Strain, if not, a little more going on over here. Pestilence, I think this needs to be a higher proc chance. Between Raise Abomination and Gargoyle, I think Gargoyle needs some love, especially just to prove that it is the single target powerhouse that I'm going to want this in single target fights in the raid. And I think that the lesser ghouls need to be buffed. I think the lesser ghouls either need to last longer, which I think is cooler, or I think that they need to just do more damage, so that your AoE is strong, even outside of cooldowns. So that is my negative thoughts. And again, those, I know I listed a lot of things, but it's because I'm picky, and during these reworks is the time to give feedback, because this stuff might not get changed all that much after the rework. So I just want to make sure that I'm being very, very intentional and specific with how I word some of this stuff. So overall, guys, the change is a 10 out of 10. Better than I could have ever hoped for. The changes that I'm offering for Unholy, sort of the things that or the feedback that I'm giving, not changes I'm offering, the feedback that I'm giving, would make it 11 out of 10, right? You guys knocked it out of the park. It's so good. It's so fun to play. I love it. I am so happy with it. Devourer DH came out, and I'm like, oh, a new DH spec, that's so cool. And then the Unholy rework happened, and I was like, okay, how am I gonna ever swap off of this? Yeah, 10 out of 10, guys. I will leave with one final thought, and that is, Blizzard, as always, where is the pet customization? We have all these pets. We have all these lesser ghouls. Where are they? I want little Maw soldiers. I want little Maldraxxus soldiers going on. I want to be able to use the old Magus that was like blue and frosty. I think we should have pet customization. That's my only other point. Guys, these changes are awesome. If you are new to Unholy, you are going to love it. You're going to love it. If you are a returning Unholy player, it is going to be like playing a modern version of the spec in all of the best ways. It's so fucking cool. Thank you guys for watching, and I will, as promised, be making guides or updates once all of this stuff changes or is finalized. So, see you soon, and thank you for watching. Suffer well.